that we can connect and engage with our partners. So this one is the most current and hot off the press place where you can hear it first from Microsoft. So moving swiftly along into the content that we've got covered off for you this month, I'm going to cover off only a few topics. I'm going to be doing less talking today and handing over to a talented team that's going to cover off lots of content today. So we're going to deep dive into some Dynamics 365 for talent, an overview from Carly Scott Murphy. Then we're going to have a recap on Microsoft Build from one of our head of our fast track, Dan Larson, the legend Dan Larson. And then we'll welcome Warwick Gray, who is from our agency Hachiko, who's going to talk to us about ExpressRoute and the Azure Toolkit. And then as usual, featuring Vitor, our partner channel marketing manager on enablement, who we welcome back this week after being off. So good to have him back on board. So quickly from me into top of mind for May, Microsoft Inspire, quick update around what's happening in this space is around the price increase that goes up at the end of this month, so May 30th on May 31st. So just in 2 days, the price will raise significantly. So currently, you can get the cost of for USD $2,225. This will go up exorbitantly to $2,595. So you need to get in quick to get those to get that price underway. I am out of vouchers, so I can no longer help anybody out with a discount that has passed. I've been scrambling around, and now the cupboard is bare. So the only price that we can offer you currently today is at $2,225. So do get on. You'll see the registration link here and on the screen when we share out the document. The other thing that I'd like to encourage that if you can't actually make it to Inspire, a lot of the content is going to be available online that you'll be able to tap into once during that week. So we'll share a little bit more information about that coming up a little bit closer to the time, but it is the place to hear it right from the horse's mouth of when all our partners and Microsoft gathers up in Las Vegas to be able to find out what is happening in and across Microsoft and how this may impact your business and how you may learn right at the forefront. The other thing that I do want to get you across is our New Zealand partner landscape research that we have just launched last week into market. We are working with a company called Capitalis that is conducting this research for us to capture an overview of our partner ecosystem and the role that our partners are playing with customers with our Microsoft products and services and the impact that that is having on the New Zealand economy. So it's really critical for us to have that lens in view. It is a confidential survey that has been sent out via email and will be pushed out through to has been pushed out to our network partners. And we're really hoping to drive at least 100 surveys. Now I know that the date sits there as 19th of April, so date changing on that one, looking for the 19th of June. So I really do encourage you in here to be able to partake. It enables us to really capture that overview and how Microsoft can help our partners in business. And what we'll do, we will be, I'm going to check in with Raddy and make him see if he could put a note in the message meeting chat to see whether he can share a link in on that or whether it can only be picked up via email. So there's quite a team in behind this. Naturally, I'm a bit of a project sponsor on this, so I'm wanting to see some success, but so that we can be able to share, this view of we have of the impact on the economy that our partners have in the country. So it is something that I do encourage you to get on board with. Raddy has put in the meeting chat that he will share the link at the end. So we will be looking across all our channels to communicate this link via our Yammer, via our newsletter, via our webinar, and also in on LinkedIn. So if you do see it, please encourage yourself and do share it wider in your business so we can capture the viewpoint of our partners of which are important to us. Now that's enough from me. I'm going to be handing over to Carly Scott Murphy, who is one of our global back belts, and she is going to take it from here on Dynamics 365 for talent.
Great, thanks Pip.
Over to you, Carly.
I'm hoping you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys, and thanks very much for having me today. For those of you who can hear my accent, I'm from across the ditch, and I've got a quick presentation for you all before I run downstairs into a cab, hop in a plane, and fly home for the day. I'm Melbourne-based, and I'm here to talk to you about New Zealand's Got Talent and the overview of Dynamics 365 for talent. Whoops, let me just go to my next. Thank you. Thanks for your help there. So for those of you, that's my lovely face there. That was one of the competitions we had at an offsite to design something from Star Wars there. So that's my lovely mag. I'm a global black belt, which basically means I'm a product specialist in the Dynamics 365 for talent space. I am also a black belt in real life too, and training for my second Dan in Taekwondo. So you need to be very careful of my dangerous hands. For those of you who can take a QR code snap, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just please, what I do ask, as I do get a lot of, probably about 5 or 6 invitations a day, I do ask that you refer to the fact that you've seen me today and what might be interest as well. I've got a hashtag Let's Talk Talent, and please follow that on Twitter, or if you do mention anything on LinkedIn or Twitter, please feel free to reference that as well. So today,
yeah, it's come through now.
Go ahead. No questions. Yeah, feel free to ask questions, by the way, either in the chat, probably in the chat window might be best. I can see that chat happening as well. So basically today, I'm just going to do a quick overview in terms of positioning and selling from the talent perspective. If you do want to find more information about the product, there will be some images and GIFs that are happening throughout to see a little bit of a mini demo, but by all means, contact the local team and they can reach out to me as well. But basically, we're looking at a digital transformation. This is nothing new to you guys. We've been talking about it at Microsoft for a long time. But in terms of focusing on the people transformation, some of the key points, if you're talking to HR people, and from a business applications perspective, we are starting to talk more to the business than IT. So these are some of the things that we'd find would be relevant and top of mind to organisations out there. So things like scarcity of talent, with the baby boomers now retiring. We also find with the rise of AI and automated work that this is kind of changing the way people work, or what people actually do. So finding those people to fill those particular roles can be quite challenging. So those are some of the things that start coming up. With the rise of AI and automated work, we're also looking at how what people do, and making sure that our employees who are onboarded to the organisation, who understand us and what we do, are able to transform and change their skill set and keep up with the pace, so that we don't have to necessarily go out there to market, but we understand the skill set within the business. About fluid and flexible, I know from my perspective, I actually don't go into the office a lot. Today's a rare day that I'm actually in a Microsoft office, but really about allowing our employees to really have a fluid and flexible workforce working environment, particularly things like, I work in a global role and work with a development team back in Redmond. So really I need to be, more flexible in terms of how I work, and so not being so regimented about a 9 to 5 kind of role. And in terms of diversity and inclusion and purpose and culture, they're really important out here in terms of to HR teams, because this is what's starting to attract people more and keep people more. And I can talk to that directly because my background, I was approached by Microsoft to join this role, and one of the key things that really inspired me to join was Satya's the culture that he's developed, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. And so this is what's, cultivating that right culture allows organizations to really nurture and keep and motivate and retain their employees that are out there. So you guys have seen this. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but just basically saying from a talent perspective, just to make you guys aware that it is a SaaS solution. It is part of the business Dynamics 365 suite, and it is supported and extended through the Power Platform. So that's with Flow and Power Apps are really critical pieces to this point of view. So if you're out there positioning talent, make sure you're aware that this is not AX. This is a different product, and it is SaaS. And so you need to extend and talk about the product slightly differently than that. So if you've got a CRM background, that's probably a little bit more relatable in terms of that. We just Yeah, there we go. So there are three parts to this product that we really sort of focus on. The first one is Attract, the second one Onboard, and Core HR. So by their names, you should be fairly familiar with those kind of components to them. Attract being sort of that ATS, you might hear the terminology application tracking system. Onboarding, that's not generally done well by organizations out there. And from an onboarding perspective at Microsoft, what we're really looking at is not just here's some employee documents, fill them out, or here, we've got to get a computer for you on your first day, but really starting to look about how we can accelerate the new hire to impact and success. So things like, how does a customer how does an employee get up to speed quickly? And of course, from a core HR perspective, we're looking at how we can manage and maintain and develop our employees. So in terms of positioning, I wanted to cover a couple of different pieces, and it looks like my GIF is not working in this presentation, so you just get a still screen. So maybe that's all just holding you in suspense there. But basically, a couple of different plays that you can go into and approach out there in the market. The first one is with Attract and Onboard, and one of the reasons to do that is really from a customer, it's much easier to rip and replace a recruiting and onboarding system as it is to replace a payroll or an HR system, because we're not touching employee or payroll data as such. It can be a shorter sales cycle for you guys as well, so you can get that in quicker. And the implementation timelines, it's less complex. We're building it on an Active Directory user base, so we're not having to do a lot of configuration there. It can be more complex in terms of integration if you start looking at taking into Flow and Power Apps into the equation as well. That's where you can definitely get some more IP in around that as well. So we're really looking, in places where we can look at as people who've got manual processes or high volume recruitment, things like that. So from an onboard perspective and onboard viral motion, so, as I've mentioned before, onboarding can be looked outside of just the HR or IT provisioning processes, and look at how you bring a person into your organization. What are the methodologies we use to implement projects? How do we ask for leave? Who are the people we need to know within the organization? Is really starting to share that sort of departmental kind of onboarding and getting people up to speed. So this is a really great way to get into a customer who may already have a recruiting system or an HR system that we can get in there as sort of a way to get into the customer with Dynamics. So it's a really great, and I've just realized I've got a spelling mistake on there that I must correct. But yeah, look, we're looking at, if they've got a manual onboarding process, it can be going in, through HR. You can use Flow to do things like, automate the Active Directory process, or using Power Apps to kind of provision or order computers and things like that. But this is a really cool way to get into a customer. Then from a full suite perspective, Attract and Onboard and Core, we're looking at sort of the employee self-service area of Ben there, but we really need to be a little bit more careful in terms of that. If you know about the history of the talent product, we are an emerging solution still. So we just need to be careful about qualifying the opportunities carefully, and the ideal targets for these are things like our finance and operations customers, and pull through from that. And indeed, actually, I probably should add there our CRM customers too. Every organization on this planet has people. Where are you storing your master data for people? So, from a CRM or for an F&O customer's perspective, it's a good way to kind of ask that question and look to position talent as well. We're looking at all sorts of industries, but of course, this comes with a longer sales cycle process, higher risk as we're connecting with payroll, etc. So it's just something for you guys to be aware of. But feel free to talk with the teams here and the experts as well, and we can help guide you in terms of that qualification process. And the final piece for those customers who do have existing customers such as F&O, they've rolled it out. They might already have licenses. So from a licensing perspective, you can look at increasing your license deals with adding on comprehensive hiring, which is a talent SKU particularly. So for F&O customers, for example, you can have unified operations plan, and that covers the talent license for recruiters. The team member licenses might be covered for team members. So from a licensing perspective, to get an additional level might be the comprehensive hiring, and that opens up greater Attract and Onboard functionality. If you're doing positioning, Attract and Onboard, they would need the comprehensive hiring SKU as well. So I just wanted to cover a couple of references that we do have within region. So it's really exciting that we've got two references. The first one is ECH, and this is a company based out of South Australia, and we have a recorded reference for them. So what we're doing with Talent is recording references. So that's really exciting because it allows us to use that at any time with the customer. So if you are doing a talent project at the moment, I will be on your case about trying to get a recorded reference in there. ECH and TNA is the other one, so a packaging processing solution organisation. This one's based out of Sydney, and they're both referenceable customers for us. TNA are going in full Microsoft stack, in fact. So it's great to see we've got reference customers coming out. We do have a number of projects going across the ANZ region, and we do have one that started in New Zealand, which is really exciting. Congratulations to that partner. I won't name them just so that I don't take any thunder there. But, you know, we're really excited to see projects starting and really things taking off on terms of that. So with that, I just wanted to see, okay, we've just got one question in there. Can you buy a tract without buying anything else? From the licensing module, there are ways to kind of not have to buy everything in terms of licensing, but in terms of buying a tract separately, individually, I don't believe that is the case. There used to be a web direct motion out there, but that was causing a lot of confusion. So there's been some communications out there. Do ask your product development your partner development managers as well. We have sent out recently the latest talent newsletter, and so that will also give you some information. I'll pass over to my colleague next, but if you do have any questions, I'll be sitting here in the meeting room quickly just to answer any chats, and I'll be on the phone as I go to the airport as well to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carly. How cool is Talent? It's a really great product. We're using it on our team at the moment. It's nice to see that update. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Daniel Larson. I'm a senior fast track engineer. That is an engineer who works for Azure Engineering, who's focused on helping customers to get into Azure and to be successful in doing so, and hopefully have as awesome as experience along the way as they can. I'm based here in Auckland, New Zealand, and through the magic of the internet, I'm sitting in an office here in Auckland talking to you. So I hope you're having a great day wherever you may be. So my background is a software engineer and solution architect in IT for 20 years. The last 3 of those have been at Microsoft. So you can imagine the thrill I got when I got an invitation to attend Microsoft Build for the first time, which is traditionally a developer conference, Windows developer conference. I'd now describe it as an Azure developer conference. And yeah, that was definitely a bucket list event for me. So I'm very excited to share with you my experience from that event. So here's a few photos that I took around the floor. What I took away was the diversity, 500 students in attendance. You know, a lot of people there, a huge space. If you've ever been to the Washington Convention Center, this is a massive area, which most of it was reserved for open spaces that you could walk up and work on IoT or play some Spaces games or do anything like that. And yeah, loads and loads of sessions, workshops, and individual experiences that you can participate in. So yeah, a phenomenal experience and something I'd recommend for everyone. Inspire is obviously our next big conference, which has got a lot of great technical content as well. And don't forget Ignite at the end of the year. As with every build and every major Microsoft conference, there are a million different announcements, and here they are listed in 3 pages for you to quickly speed read. And we're just gonna skip through them really quickly, just to highlight. You know, these are really the headlines, and there are many, many more after that as well. I've cherry picked about 30, which gives me roughly 10 seconds each to go through with you during this time. So I'll just go through some of my favorites. And I'm not an expert in all of these, but please feel free to drop your questions into the meeting chat. I will talk at a very high technical level, but a lot of these announcements are quite technical. But I think there's a lot in here for our partners, especially those who are building software or offering solutions to customers on Azure. So first of all, Azure SQL Database Edge. What this means is the ability to be able to run our SQL database engine, which is the one that you know and love, highly secure, probably one of the best DB engines out there in terms of security and performance today, can now run on ARM64. So that is a big deal. We're talking about a smaller footprint, a different chipset, and we can run this in Linux x64 in a container, as we know how to do this for a while. What this means is we can deploy SQL into the edge, so using IoT hubs, or you can bring your own device management system to do that, and we can use that's best suited for high input time series data that you want to process on the edge. Very, very cool product there. Turnkey management, it'll support multiple languages, Python and R. If you hadn't heard that, you can put Python in a stored procedure these days, which is pretty thrilling. Azure SQL DB serverless, yes, you read right. That is an online transactional processing database that you can turn on and off. It will idle, so you can set it in idle time. It will shut down and stop charging for you. It basically brings an innovative new billing model, which is you're always paying for the storage, but then you pay per core per second. So that means when it is up and running, you pay per core per second, and that is great for those offline database jobs that you don't need to have on all the time. A lot of big announcements for database hyperscale, mainly that it's gone GA. So we announced the GA, which means general availability at build. If Azure SQL Database Hyperscale is our fully managed instance of SQL where you don't have to manage anything about your cluster, which currently scales up to 100 terabytes. Now, anyone who knows anything about managing SQL clusters knows that is a very large cluster, and we are doing that as a managed service for many, many customers around the world today, and would love to be able to offer that service to your customers as well. Azure Functions is our serverless platform in the cloud. I would describe it from a developer point of view as an API. It has always run on top of our app services platform. It can now run. The big announcement is that it will now run in Kubernetes. This is a partnership with Red Hat, which was called Kuday, or I'm not too sure how to pronounce that, but that was a open source project that we worked on, and friends in engineering have worked on that project where we can run functions in a Kubernetes cluster. And I would say that's probably a sign of what's going to come in the future, where you can run small pieces of serverless code pretty much anywhere you can think, on any compute you've got, on any platform, even on the edge as well. So lots of good stuff with functions there. This is a big one. This went straight past me when it came, but anyone who knows OpenShift or Red Hat will understand what a big deal this is. This is a fully managed OpenShift in Azure, which is a joint support experience with Microsoft. That means that we are partnering with Red Hat. That means that we have Microsoft engineers and Red Hat engineers in that support escalation process for your customers. This brings Red Hat Enterprise Linux and the support that goes with that into an OpenShift, essentially a Kubernetes style or container style orchestrator and cluster. Yeah, that is pretty great, that's for sure, Paul. Lots around Azure Kubernetes Service as well, which is our fully managed Kubernetes service in the cloud. This is the ability for you to be able to stand up an Azure Kubernetes, a Kubernetes cluster with no management. You bring the nodes, we provide the master nodes for free, and we will provide the API for Kubernetes for you and your developers to work on in a fully managed environment inside Azure. Lots of big announcements around Azure Kubernetes. I'm just going to skip through a few of them. I would see this as a trend of where we're going. We're clearly heavily investing in Kubernetes. We've embraced the open source project. We've hired one of the founders of that project from Google, Brendan Burns, who now runs our compute engineering efforts. Lots of great announcements there, which I won't read through all of them, but I will pick out a couple. One is that we are now supporting Windows containers in AKS in a private preview. This is a private preview that anyone can join up to. So if you're interested in running Windows nodes on Kubernetes, then please ping me or your partner development manager or your CSA or any technical contact you've got, and we will enroll you in that program. So that's exciting. That's obviously private preview, so it's pretty early days, but that's where Windows orchestration is heading. And the other one is virtual nodes is now generally available. That's the ability for you to be able to use our serverless platform, which is called Azure Container Instances, another serverless platform we've got, to be able to spin up containers as a node and breathe those clusters in and out with virtual nodes. This is a contribution we've also made to the open source Kubernetes project, which is very exciting from an open source point of view. Lots of governance features coming into Kubernetes, which is showing that we are really pushing into the enterprise space with Kubernetes. And in the enterprise, you need things like policies, like network policies. Multiple node pools is a big announcement. This allows us to run multiple node pools in AKS, which you've been able to do in Kubernetes for a long time. And obviously, this unlocks the Windows capability and is an essential feature for AKS clusters. More on this coming, which is really interesting. So more on the private networking, the authenticated IPs, those sort of things is coming soon. So lots of big announcements coming up. And the monitoring story is just improving out of sight. Monitoring in Kubernetes has never really been breezy, but I'm really happy to see what we're doing in Azure Monitor, which I would say is starting to catch up or even surpass some of the other options such as Prometheus and things like that. So a lot of work going into this for the ability for you to be able to very quickly diagnose something as complex as a large orchestrator like Kubernetes. Right, changing tacks a wee bit to another awesome distributed computing system, and that is Cosmos DB. So a couple of big announcements from my point of view. One is an API for Spark. Now, I'm not a Spark guy, but that is a big announcement. That's clearly very interesting. The other one is etcd. So we're providing an API on top of Cosmos for etcd, and also allowing you to put Jupyter notebooks directly on top of that. So there'll be people on this call who can speak much more to the Spark piece, but being able to have Cosmos DB as a highly available key value store using the etcd API is pretty exciting. That means that we no longer have to spin up etcd clusters, which can be problematic to manage. And lots of announcements coming up as well for Cosmos DB. I'll skip this one real quick. I'm not too sure too many people using PostgreSQL with in the Microsoft partner land, but if you are, please shout out. But we invested in a company called Citus, who have truly enabled Postgres at scale. And this is another open source project that we are now bringing into our Azure SQL DB for Postgres product. Azure DB for Postgres product. Azure Dev Spaces is, I guess, our opinion on how to do development in Kubernetes right. It's built into Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. If you're running a development team or you're working closely with development teams, this is something to have a look at. It's a very interesting way to push products and features as quickly as you can through your CI/CD pipeline all the way into from the IDE here, from Visual Studio, all the way into production, with the governance and the controls and being able to spin up dev spaces where you can truly test features online. This is some really innovative work from the Visual Studio team, and I expect to see many more features coming from this in the future as well. Azure Logic Apps, I guess the big announcement is ISE is now general available. So that's our integrated service environment, the environment that allows you to connect Logic Apps on premises if that's what you want to do. Inline code is exactly what it sounds like, a public preview for that. And SAP Connector, so that's a big one. We've had the SAP Connector for a while, but yeah, you can see that we're not slowing down in terms of Logic Apps and positioning Logic Apps in terms of being the B2B orchestrator in the cloud, as all of the services that our large enterprise and government customers need to integrate with are moving into the cloud, then it's logical that we use a Logic App integration environment that is hosted in the cloud, and that is clearly our view at Microsoft, and we're putting a lot of investment into this product, which is already, 4 or 5 years old, so that's really good to see. App service, a few interesting things here around networking features. We are pushing along this really hard. We want to be able for you to have similar functionality in app services as you would expect from the app service environments, if you know what that means. So expect to see more along the lines of private networking and private networking features. We've upgraded the VNet integration capability, which is good. We've added Python support in Java 11. I'm seeing a big ramp up in terms of interest for Java hosting and app services. It is actually a wonderful web farm hosting platform, and I can see why we are starting to lift and shift more and more Java applications into it, which is good news. Azure IoT plug and play. So yeah, plug and play, man, that's going back some famous plug and play demos that I don't wish to recall, but this is a good one. This is the idea that we are building it at a device level, the ability for these devices to plug and play with each other, and obviously into our IoT hub and other stories like that as well. Machinelearning.net, think of this as a .NET library SDK that you can program with C# or F# or anything in the .NET CLR space to run machine learning models. And some of those models we've built for you and have now shared with you in an open source project so that you can bring a lot of that goodness into your .NET projects. There's been a couple of new cognitive services announced. One I'm very excited about is the personalizer service. So if, like me, you've spent a lot of time in GraphDB writing your own personalization service for recommendations at checkout or anything like that, well, good news. You can throw all that code away and replace it with a cognitive service from Microsoft. And if you've seen a demo of this, this is very cool. It's been done right, and so I'm very excited about this announcement. The other one was the Forms cognitive service. So that's the ability to go through and what's the right word? Not scrape, but decode forms and get information out there and put those into meaningful entities. And is that my last one, or have I got one more? Let's have a look. Azure DevOps. This is the one that I get asked about almost every day, and that is when YAML pipelines, multi-stage YAML pipelines, going to be released in Azure DevOps. Well, good news. We made the announcement at Build. You need to enable this feature in the Preview Features tab in Azure DevOps if you're using that. Once you've got that, you're away. And please, we'd love to hear your feedback if you are building CI/CD pipelines using release management with YAML. Let us know what your experience is like, and we can pass it on to the engineering team. One more, Azure Quick Start Center. If you are looking for a good place to start for governance, so you're not sure, what's the right thing to do now, when do I turn on Security Center? You might have heard terms like scaffolding, those sort of things. And the Quick Start Center is built into the portal. Show your engineers and developers how to find it and get them to walk through the step-by-step guides. This is what we use on the Fast Track team when we're walking teams through how to get started and how to scaffold and set up their subscriptions in the right way. Awesome. That's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll hand over to Warwick.
Thank you,
Daniel. Hey, I'm Warwick Gray from Hachiko. We're Microsoft's marketing services agency, and we've got some great news to share with you today. If any of you did happen to understand everything that Daniel just said, then you don't really need to listen on. But if you do think you might need some help, I've got some good news for you. Well, we all know that in recent times, 81% of enterprises have said that good connectivity between on-premises and public cloud is the most important thing to their hybrid cloud deployment solution. And if you saw reseller news last week, you'll know that Microsoft New Zealand has just announced that the installation coming up soon of the first local POP into Auckland with ExpressRoute to get you to the Australian data centres from right here in Auckland. One of the things that lets us do is obviously bypass the public internet where you might be experiencing long provisioning times, some congestion, and have concerns about security issues. And so the integration of Microsoft ExpressRoute is your on-ramp for your customers or yourselves to get greater choice, faster scalability, and lowering costs of Azure into New Zealand. One of the ways we do that is Microsoft has set up 5 provisioning partners that will have access to that POP point from Auckland. That is Spark, Cordia, Vocus, Devoli, and Megaport. So as a partner, or if any of your customers are thinking of wanting to get a better express service, you can connect with and contact any one of these 5 provisioning partners to do a cost review and to look at whether the way that you're supplying Azure at the moment may be cheaper for you. A term I learned recently is about Microsoft Azure egress. So you don't pay to upload things to Azure, but you do pay when you access it and bring it down. And some of our provisioning partners are talking of up to 60% reduction in some of those egress costs. The reason that is happening is that Microsoft obviously own this express route. You only have to pay to connect to these POP points in Auckland, and that's going to save a lot of time, money, and hopefully a lot of stress for you. Just to show you some of the other changes that we've made to the local New Zealand Partner Hub is here under the Azure tab on the Partner Hub. You'll see there are 2 tabs there. One is the Azure Toolkit tab, and the other one is about those provisioning partners on ExpressRoute, and I'll show you a couple of those things now. We have had some questions about the pathway to success in the cloud with Azure. So this 6-step process is something that we've done to try and help smaller partners understand that pathway, starting with watching the video from Patrick Quinnell about the cloud opportunity. Secondly, completing some Azure fundamentals training, and there's free online training for everybody that wants to learn and upskill on Azure there. Step 3 is to download the Microsoft detailed playbooks for the cloud around migration, optimization, operations, and infrastructure. Then we have step 4, which is to learn more about how to adopt the cloud inside an organization. It's another link to a step-by-step process from Microsoft to help you and your clients understand why and how and what steps to take to get to cloud and what things need to be done to get there. Step 5 is obviously what you just heard from Daniel. There is obviously some partners and customers that are reluctant or slow to move to Azure because they just don't have the skill sets or they can't find an Azure technical architect. I think you just saw that Daniel probably knows his stuff. So if you've got any clients that might be potentially going to be consuming up to $5,000 of Azure a month in the next 12 months, then you are able to take advantage of some of those side-by-side supported Azure fast track services, and we'd love you to click on that link and check on how that might work, and obviously just get back in touch with your partner account manager or distribution account managers if you'd like to know more about that. And then the last step is once you've got your framework sorted, you've got your training done, you've got clients onto Azure, we really want to then introduce them to a faster way to get there through the pop point and ExpressRoute, which is step number 6. And you'll find all of this on the new revised Azure Toolkit tab. And then just finally, you'll see the ExpressRoute page. We've run up a little animation at the top. You'll be able to watch that and just understand how ExpressRoute works, ultimately what that means and what you have to do and what benefits you'll get. There's also a wonderful case study of one of New Zealand's public sector partners, Healthcare New Zealand, and some of the advantages that they've gained from taking the ExpressRoute pathway. Underneath that, you'll see details about the service that is going to be provided by each of the 5 partners, and each of them has got information and a click through to their own landing pages for how they'll assist you to plan out the ExpressRoute migration and understand the benefits that they each have. They're obviously competing with each other, so you're welcome to make contact, find out the person that would help you and get some pricing modeling done. And then just to give you a heads up, on the last slide, we have a full range of above the line advertising running starting from tomorrow, all across CIO, all across reseller news, just to try and have everybody understand just what that opportunity is and how it can absolutely speed up and make a smoother pathway for to get to the Azure data centers in Australia, right from here in Auckland. A very exciting step forward for the company. If you've got any questions, pop them into the chat window or email us after the call on nzpartner@microsoft.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Warwick. That's great news. So kia ora, everyone. My name is Vitor. I'm the Partner Channel Marketing Manager. And I'm going to be closing up the presentation today. I'll share some updates around partner training and what's coming. So just to let everyone know, because I know some people joined a bit late, this presentation is being recorded. I'm going to share it via YouTube with you guys, and the slides as well via Yammer, so you can click on the links and check all the content. But a nice tip for those of you that don't know, we are running this webinar on Teams, and then whenever you see a link on the slides, you can click on that link straight away, so you don't have to wait for the slides to check in of those links and the content. Whenever you see something that you are interested, just click on that link straight on your screen, and you're going to be taken to the web page. That's pretty cool. So today, what I'd like to cover, I have some different topics I'll be talking about, but I really want to focus on some of the online training, online courses we have got coming up. As you guys know, we run a lot of in-person training, but I have much more online training available live and on demand. And just want to start with some Microsoft 365 webinars we recently did about 2 months ago, covering some of the new stuff around Microsoft 365, which is first line, which many of you are probably aware of what first line means and is. If you do not know, please check the first webinar and the second webinar to understand how to start developing a first line offer. There were also some recent updates to E5 licensing. So if you want to check what those updates look like, check the third webinar. And last but not least, there are some best practices and some updates to security and compliance offerings within Microsoft 365, and have covered that on the fourth webinar. So those are available on demand. You can go and check at your own pace when you have the time. And just an advice for those of you that have modern workplace practices is to join the Microsoft 365 partner Yammer community. So this is a global community, great place to get abreast of events, webinars, updates in regards to licensing features, everything related to the modern workplace and Microsoft 365 specifically. Moving on, the last webinar I spoke about the about the IoT opportunity in New Zealand. And I was also talking about how Azure plays a big role on that, and how you guys can start developing practices. So if you haven't seen that, you can review the webinar or just go to the New Zealand Partner Hub. We have a very comprehensive practice development guide to help you either develop a new practice or optimize your IoT practice. And I would like to cover some online training that's coming up. It's very timely, covering IoT, specifically Azure IoT. So this is a series with 7 webinars. They'll be presented by some of our senior specialists, so people that have been working with IoT for 10 plus years. So that's a long time. And we're going to cover those 7 different topics. Feel free to click on the links on your screen to find out more. My own advice, because these are being run globally by our team, the time zone is not the best for New Zealand, right? So it's going to start at 9:30 p.m. and they're going to run for about 60 to 75 minutes. If you sleep late like I do, I don't think that's that bad, but you can always watch the recording. So go register. You're going to have access to the materials. If you cannot make it, you're going to be able to watch the recording later on. So great opportunity to learn more about Azure IoT from our top specialists. The next one, and this is super cool because I have lots of conversations with partners, many of you guys on the call here I know personally, about developing technical skills. And as you guys know, we have a lot of content available online that you can self-serve, but you always ask, okay, how can I make an assessment of my current skills? And we don't know what we don't know. How can I close the knowledge gaps and keep building my technical skills? So I would like to introduce you guys, I hope some of you are familiar with that, to Microsoft Partner Network Technical Journeys. And what it is, it's basically leveraging your advisory hours, which you get with your competencies. One benefit from Silver, Gold competence, as well as Microsoft Action Pack members. And this is giving you access to talk to our pre-sales professionals, technical specialists on a one-on-one format model, and getting advice on how to build your technical skills, right? So you can use those advisory hours in many different ways. You can use that for pre-sales assistance, for sales, help with RFPs and so forth. But you can also have a consultation with a technical specialist that will first understand what's your current knowledge, the skills you want to build, and they will help you to tailor a learning path according to your needs, right? So this is very customized. You're really going to be able to talk to someone that understands about the topic you want to learn, and they're going to help you to craft a learning path with both online training as well as resource, documentation, and conversations to help you build those skills. So you're going to have access to webinars. You're going to have a conversation with one of our specialists, and we also have dev chat. So if you're developing applications, you can have someone helping you to code that and to review that. So very interesting services. I just want to make sure you guys are aware and leverage that the best you can. So right now there are 8 different areas that you can get assistance to build technical skills, which not surprisingly are aligned to our cloud products, right? So if you want to build a security practice and need the technical skills around that, you can start a consultation, and you're going to have someone helping you online over the phone to understand the gaps and then build a plan, provide you the resources, the links, the webinars, and all the documentation you need. So this is super cool, right? Is sometimes you need help to navigate. I know there's a lot you probably have seen on the Azure presentation, the build presentation from them. There's a lot of content around Azure, and you might want to learn more about that. So these guys can help you deep dive on some of those topics and learn more. Moving a little bit forward, as Pip mentioned on the beginning of the presentation of the webinar today, we are moving to our last month of the year. June is the last month of our financial year, fiscal year here at Microsoft. And I appreciate and acknowledge that there has been a lot of change happening to Microsoft official certification. So many of you have asked me what's happening with official exams, how will that impact competences, and I think that there was a great period over the last couple of months, but I hope that's very clear for most of you guys now. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself. We have made a blog post around new certifications, how that's impacting the competencies. I spoke last webinar about that, but what I'd like to help you guys now is, okay, how do you prepare for those new exams in case you are planning to sit one of those Microsoft official exams? Just bear in mind, this is hot off the press. It's new content aligned to new exams, and just be conscious that just going through some of these learning paths may not give you all the skills that you need to pass the exam. So just a disclaimer: if you do the course and you don't pass the exam, please understand that this is a learning path to help you build the knowledge. You can always go through a Microsoft official curriculum course through one of our learning partners in New Zealand. If you want to have like a in-person 5 days, 4 days course, really aligned to certification. But those learning paths that I'll be sharing here with you guys will really give you a good understanding of the technology they cover, and will be very aligned to the official exams, the new exams we have, right? So those are for the AZ, which stands for the Apps and Infrastructure exams. So if you're planning to go for Azure Administrator, Azure Fundamentals, if you're a sales or pre-sales professional, or if you're a technical guy and want to go for DevOps exam, Azure Architect, any of those exams, these learning paths will help you learn more about the topics that will be covered on those exams, right? So these are all available for free online. You can do at your own pace whenever you have some time, and it will really help you towards those exams. Moving forward, here I have added the MB exams, which are the business applications exams aligned to Dynamics 365. Not all of the exams have a learning path available yet. Some of the business applications exams are being launched as we speak, so that's very, very new. But we already have some new exams available that will impact the business application competence, and you have learning paths available to help you towards those exams. And on this page, I have added the links to the MS exams, which stands for the Modern Workplace, relating to Microsoft 365, Office 365, and everything aligned to modern workplace, Windows devices, all of that, security and compliance. So if you're interested in sitting any of those exams for the modern workplace, productivity, competencies, check those learning paths, and that will certainly help you there. So guys, I know that that's a lot of content, and I appreciate that different people on this call will have different needs, different focus, probably be planning for one or other exam at this stage. So please check the content, review the presentation, and find the course that best suits your needs and the exams you are studying for. Last but not least, and also I was surprised to see how many people ask that question. but many partners, and as probably know, having Microsoft certified professionals, MCPs, is a requirement to achieve some silver and gold competencies at the Microsoft Partner Network program. And a common issue we see is the MCP is not being associated correctly as they should to the partner or organization profile at MPN. So I have added the link here. If you have any questions on how to do that, how to associate yourself or de-associate yourself, maybe you have moved jobs, and I know a lot of people move jobs and they never spend the time to go back and reassociate themselves to the new profile, and then that creates some confusion later on when they're trying to acquire new competencies. So there's an article here, a step-by-step guide for you on how to do that process within Partner Center or Partner Membership Center. So we are on the middle of a transition right now on our MPN background tools. So there's the step-by-step process for both platforms. So if you manage your MPN profile at Partner Center or Partner Membership Center, you're going to find the information on this link. With that, I will wrap up the May edition of the MPN webinar. We had a great lineup of speakers today, so thanks for everyone, Pete, Dan, Carly, and Warwick. And just going to open up for questions, so feel free to ask questions, open up your mic or just type in the chat. Once again, we're going to share the presentation in probably 2 days from now, probably by Friday on YouTube, so you can review it, as well as the slides we have presented during this webinar. So thanks again. We're going to give you guys 5 minutes back, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Hey, Vitor, just before you head away, there's a question from Emmanuel. Any plans to get new exam promo like there was 2 years ago with triple exams and CRAMS?
Great question, Emmanuel. Thanks, Pip, for checking that out. What I can tell you is there are plans, but not within the next 1 or 2 months. So that's probably going to happen at Inspire. So there will be, of course, many announcements happening at Inspire in July, and they will announce some promotions around exam packages at Inspire. And they always do, right? So if you happen to attend Inspire, be aware that there are some promotions that only attendees can leverage. So that's one more reason for you to be there, because there are lots of great stuff happening at Inspire, lots of promotions from not just Microsoft, but other vendors and partners. But there will be announcements around exam packages like discounted exam by volume. So if you're probably buying 2, 5, 10 or plus, you're going to get some discounts. So that's coming, but that's going to happen at mid to end of July, Emmanuel.
Okay, let's call it, team. Thanks everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you back next month. Thanks all.